Hey guys, welcome to the live. Okay, let's just do some tests. Okay, it looks like the microphone is working compared to before. It was not working well. So now that our microphone is working, let's get right back into it. That was a little bit annoying. I hate shit when shit like that happens, but technology can be unreliable, right? It was made by humans and humans can be unreliable. So what do you think something made by them is going to be? I'm just I'm just saying. So today I wanted to break down the astrology down under here, right? The down under astrology, down under where we are in the southeast hemisphere or the southern hemisphere in general. In the southern hemisphere of the world, um we actually have the same alignments as everybody else. If you didn't know, we go by Western astrology here because Western astrology is more true to the actual positions of the stars, not our position in relation to the position of the stars. So, what's it called? Oh, actually, I think it's the other way around. Western astrology is based on the way that we receive the stars. So, from our perspective, it bases it on how the stars are actually like hitting us, right? The energies are actually hitting us. Whereas Eastern astrology is more based on the actual position of the stars based on where they are at, like compared to our relative position, but more close to their relative position, if that makes sense. I feel like that's a whole lot of jargon and a whole lot of mumbo jumbo. But basically, they're correlating the position of the stars based on like their closeness to that specific star, as opposed to Western astrology is based on how our relative space is receiving the energies from those stars. So it's not necessarily about where that star specifically is, because as we know, like what's it called, the time it takes for that energy to be received by us is not going to be at exact same time that that energy is produced from that specific location. You know what I mean? Like, so if we see something produced in reality that's an energy, it's not going to be received at the exact moment that it's produced. It's going to be received after it's been produced and then externalized from whatever produced that product or that energy, right? So when it comes to Western and Eastern astrology, we're looking at it from the perspective of Western. Western is talking about what when the thing that was produced hits us and what position it was in when it hits us, which is relative to our position and our reception and our space as an individual, like planet or whatever. Whereas Eastern astrology is based on what was externalized and produced, where the energy was produced from initially in order for us to have received it. So, if that makes sense in a more simpler way of explaining it, Eastern astrology is just looking at what was produced, the initial production of the energy, whereas Western astrology is looking at what was received from the initial production of the energy, which is to say, our position and our space is receiving it in a different way than it was initially produced. It's like subjective than objective type shit. So that's why Western astrology is the better astrology to actually correlate your astrology based off of. But in saying that, both can apply because at the end of the day, Eastern astrology is the energy that was initially produced. So whatever's being received is going to have aspect of what was produced. Whatever's being externalized is going to be within the final product of what is being received. So there's still an aspect of Eastern astrology that can be attributed to Western astrology, which is to say that, for example, if you're, I'm pretty sure it's Scorpio. If you're a Scorpio, then in Western astrology, obviously you're a Scorpio. We're talking about Western astrology, sorry. just to clarify. If you're a Scorpio in Western astrology, you have more traits of being like a more like a Virgo per se. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that's what it is in Eastern astrology. Because in Eastern astrology, I'm pretty sure they take it back a whole 30 degrees. Actually, I kind of want to double check that just so I'm not spitting some mumbo jumbo, Got to fact check. But let me be back. I will be not long. Okay. Right. I'm not sure how to do this without actually exiting out. Oh, I can open another browser. All right, sorry about that delay, guys. I should have been more prepared, but that's all right. It's Mars Day, which is more related to the Mars energy, which is more spontaneous, it's more impulsive, it's more Aries like. So I'm tapping into my Aries rising, guy. Tapping into the Aries rising. I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna be uh, American hobbyism, Native American hobbyism. That's another thing I wanted to bring up, guys. Astrology is Native American hobbyism. Actually, the whole template of the world that you guys live in right now is based off Native American hobbyism. So always know and always respect the original spirits, the original individuals that created and gave birth to the ideas that you are able to utilize and go about your day-to-day life today, right? So it's about knowing where things came from and acknowledging it. If you live in Australia, you already know about this, acknowledging the true custodians of the land, which is really just a watered down spiritual aspect of what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is really what it should be looked at, where you should mentally be acknowledging them, but knowing the reason behind why you're acknowledging them, not just acknowledging it because, oh, something bad happened in the past and we should be paying our respects due to the fact that something bad happened in the past. I just had a piece of dead skin on my freaking lip. But also, I couldn't even fact check it because it just freaking removed Mozilla Firefox because apparently my phone's too hot, which I don't believe because it's not even hot in here. And my phone doesn't even feel hot. My phone feels slightly warm. My phone's a little bit of a bitch. But yeah, I'll fact check that in a second. But yeah, I was on the Native American hobbyism. So if you want to check out and know more about that, Dollar Parliament breaks all of that down. He's actually got all the knowledge when it comes to Native American hobbyism, or really, he's got all the knowledge when it comes to the whole entire world. So if you want to learn about everything to do with the world, you actually go to his channel. He can basically break down everything to a T. But at the same time, it's up to you. I'm not going to sit here and control you and tell you what to do. But yeah, he's pretty bomb. No, pretty bomb. I will say he is the most bomb. Like when he, the only thing I can think of right now as a description is he will make what you think is bomb seem ordinary, and what you think is ordinary seem bomb. Like he will turn your world on its head, basically. But in the best way possible, not in the worst way. Like in the best way possible. Like to the point where you'll be like, oh my god, I can't believe I was like allowing myself to not watch this guy on YouTube for this long. Like I can't believe I was just living my life without knowing this all along. But yeah, anyways, that's regardless. Besides the point, that's the tea. So when it comes to, you know, the way that I was breaking it down before, it's all Native American hobbyism. It's basically what happened when the Europeans invaded Native America in like the 14 or the 1500s, the 1400s, I'm pretty sure. And ever since then, they've been trying to study, they've been trying to copy the Native Americans' government, the governments, because there was more than one. There was more than one different tribe and nation. Well, really, it's all under one government of how they govern themselves as a people. But their spiritual concepts, their spiritual ideas, that's why everyone is so drawn to America. That's why America seems to be like the center of attention when it comes to the world, because that is where everyone is basing their ideologies off, based off European and um, American concepts. So they're trying to put everyone under like some kind of concept of like copying the Native American way of being things, which is what the European culture is based off. It's like this whole concept of like copying and studying the indigenous cultures of the country that they're going to invade, and then like they plagiarize it and they try to get you under this like watered down version of what they're already practicing, which because they're trying to become these things, they think that they can like somehow like become your like country's god, your country's mind, but really it just ends up in them creating freaking diversion tactics, manipulation tactics, bullshit ass tactics to try and manipulate people into thinking that they run the world when really they just control the movement of resources at a certain degree. And even then, they don't even fully control that because there's certain communities, there's certain aspects of the world that are able to move and trade resources without their help, without their influence. So that just goes to show they don't even control that. So really, what do they control? They just control whatever mentality you allow them to keep you in or keep you under. Like it just really doesn't go any further than that. They're just a bunch of creeps. And yeah, you don't need to worry about the shit. But yeah, they want everyone to be under that same similar concept of Native American hobbyism, copying Native Americans, copying their culture, which is like what their whole culture is based off of. Because in order for you to even go to another country and feel like you need to take over a country, you're already in a lacking kind of mindset, in a lacking mentality. And there's most likely a lot of lackings that you have from the land that you come from, because people who don't lack don't feel a need to go out and search in for other lands and other territories to invade. And that just shows what kind of space they were in. And the space you're in helps to create your mentality, and the mentality helps to create your physical environment and your physical experiences and the things, people, places, and things that you interact with. So if they're in that kind of space and mentality, then they're coming from a lack kind of perspective in general, period. So that just shows they lack they lack culture, they lack spirituality, they lack relatability, they lack talent, charisma, whatever it is they lack. It's coming from a lack space. So they're needing to go out externally and look and take and grab and manipulate. And like this is basically the mind state, the character that they're under. This is the god that they worship. But you know, people like you, people from your background, people from my background, people who are, especially if you're from a country that hasn't been fully like wiped out and like plagiarized the native indigenous culture, and then given like a watered down European version of the indigenous culture, then you'll be able to know this a lot more quicker, because you will be able to kind of put together the pieces and the connections of why you feel this weird energy of kind of being pulled between two different worlds. And that's the European mind that they try to bring over, the invader's mind, and your own native indigenous mind. And this is like the mind that you've created in order for you to even condense and manifest a physical um, country to even live in and reside in. So that's what's allowing you to even have experiences and experience a land or an island or whatever country you come from. It's not even a country, it's a landmass. And that landmass is you as an embodiment of you and the people, the indigenous and native peoples who stay there and reside there. That's an embodiment of all your guys' mentalities joined together. We're just like the world, as an embodiment of all of our mentalities as a collective species, multiple species, not species as in the human species, like animals, bugs, every species, bacteria, like every kind of species you can think of on Earth. We all collectively help to create our physical reality. So it goes down to a micro scale and a macro scale. In a micro scale, we're all creating our individual land masses, our individual environments, and our spaces that we are able to interact and relate to each other in. So in order for you to even, what's it called? In order for you to even wipe out or take away an indigenous people's culture, you're taking away the mindset that actually created the land to be what it is today. And so that really just only ends up in the land spewing you out, creating some kind of circumstance for you to not exist on that land anymore, creating some kind of circumstance for you to die so that they can be born again with the indigenous mind state that originally helped to manifest that land. It's like backwards type shit. Like, how can you even take over a land, plagiarize the culture, and then force everyone under one mind when the whole entire reason why that land even exists is because of that mind that you're trying to take away and kill? It makes no sense. It's weird. It's weird shit. But anyways, that was besides the point. Now I'm gonna check if I can double fact check that Eastern astrology thing that I was talking about. Sorry about that, guys. I'm back. So I couldn't figure it out yet, but it kind of showed me a little bit of something similar of what I was talking about. Anyways, I couldn't figure out the specific degrees or like if it was 30 degrees back, if it was like, but I'm pretty sure it's 30 degrees back. And then I also found something talking about how, what's it called? Vedic astrology is what I was talking about as well, guys. Sorry, I will correct that because I searched up Eastern astrology and it came up with Chinese zodiac. But I wanted to correct that and say that I was actually talking about Vedic astrology versus Western astrology, where Vedic is actually a form of Eastern astrology, but it needs to be distinguished from Eastern astrology because Eastern astrology is Chinese astrology, which is like the year of the dragon type shit, which I don't know much about that to be talking about that on YouTube. So I will if I do. Anyways, regardless, when it comes to Vedic astrology, like I was saying before, it's based on the energy that was emitted or externalized initially. And then when it comes to um, that energy, right, it is talking about the positions of the actual stars or the constellation themselves. Whereas Western astrology is talking about the position of those stars in relation to our sun or in relation to our position here, being here on the earth. So when it comes to those kind of concepts, it's all talking about I just had another thought. Anyways, it's all talking about those the relation to those constellations in their position in relation to us, which is Western astrology. So how we receive it, like I was saying, whereas Vedic astrology is talking about their positions by themselves. So how it's externalized from its original point of reference or its original point of space in time. So when it comes to looking at those two different types of astrology, they both can have some merit to them. But at the end of the day, looking at it as a factual base and where you actually are, we're on this planet. So you're going to be receiving it based on your relative position to these things, not their position, because you are not next to that star, right? So you need to look at it more from a Western astrology perspective and take elements from Vedic astrology, and that'll help you to actually be able to see things from a clearer perspective. But when it comes to astrology in general, I want to get into as well the current alignments. But yeah, like an example I was trying to think of before, if you're a Sagittarius, right? Let's say you're a Sagittarius moon like me, Sagittarius moon, then your moon sign is more under the influence of the Scorpio constellation. Or I'm pretty sure it's that, yeah. So your moon is more, or the Sagittarius, wherever your Sagittarius is, it's more backed and supported by the undertones or the energy of the constellation of Scorpio. So Sagittarius is now will be a little bit more Scorpio-like. And that's why they say in Vedic astrology, if you're a Sagittarius, then you're a Scorpio or something like that. I think it's like that. Or if you're, actually, I think it's the other way around. So like if you're a Scorpio, you're more like a Sagittarius. But I have to need to fact check that one because like now my mind's getting like what the heck? But I swear I remember it being like the other way around. But yeah, anyways, take that part with a grain of salt. Um, hey, at least I'm honest. So let's go back. I want to get my photo up of the alignments, the chart right now that I actually have up on here. Well, it won't even let me get those alignments. So, anyways, I'll just get straight into the alignments that I do remember from when I was looking at the chart. Okay, guys. So we have the moon in Virgo currently. So if you watched my channel before, you know Virgo is the time where we're analyzing, we're going within. It's like that hermit card, right? And the hermit card in the tarot deck. When it comes to the Virgo energy, it's about going within, analyzing your internal space, like analyzing your mental space, because really it's like your mental space is like your internal space. And when you're talking about Virgo, it's the feminine aspect of Mercury. So when it's the feminine aspect of Mercury, Mercury is thinking and communication, and Virgo is feminine, so it's going within, thinking and communicating to yourself, arguing and quarreling with yourself to like fight against or to support the different parts of yourself that you feel like is good, and like to reject and rebuke any parts of yourself which you feel like is bad. And then because it's backed and supported and filtered through the energy of Scorpio Sun, which is that transformational energy, like taking a look, being fixated on your deep desires and passions. And then because it's got that Scorpio and Virgo energy, we're analyzing and we're taking a look at our deep desires and passions, how we can transform these things, what we need to transform, taking a look at what can benefit us and what isn't benefiting us, what's really just holding us back and stopping us from growing and stunting our growth. So it's one of those really introspective times, but it's also a deeply transformative time because you're going to be really looking and kind of consciously making sense of what you actually need to transform and what you're transforming already, which is going to help you in the long run once we get into like Scorpio moon and Sagittarius moon for you to fully jump into that transformation during Scorpio moon, because that's going to be like when you're fully in that transformational energy with Scorpio Sun and Scorpio Moon. Then once we jump into Sagittarius, that's when you're kind of expanding into that new world that you've just transformed to inhabit, right? Because Sagittarius is to do with expansion, experiences, all that kind of good stuff. So when it comes to like how you're transforming these things, you're able to look at right now the really making sense out of what goes where and what is actually benefiting you, what makes sense for your path right now, and being mutable and adaptable to what doesn't make sense anymore, what really should be just thrown in the back burner, or maybe what should be like reconstructed and reanalyzed for you to be able to bring it out into the world in a more sufficient manner. This has made me think as well. Like I had this idea when I literally got this idea to make this video, was how like in that I was in a description of that energy today where I was able to look at, okay, well, what should I post on YouTube? Because I wanted to as well look back, okay, what have I been posting on YouTube? Because I don't want to be like repeating the same old shit like a broken record. So I looked at my old videos and I was like, oh, okay, well, I know that I've posted about what's it called? A few readings in the last few days. And then I looked back and I was like, oh, well, actually, I haven't really posted about astrology in quite a bit. So that made me think as well, like, oh, that's something that I need to transform, and jumping into that kind of Virgo aspect, right? Where I'm like, oh, okay, that's something I can transform to be more fitting towards whatever I want to display and externalize and expand into once we come around to Sagittarius moon. And then once we come around to Sagittarius moon, that's when you can fully like start to like experience that world, experience that time, experience that space that you've just already cultivated for yourself leading up to Sagittarius moon, even all the way down to like Aries moon when we first started the cycle of the moon. And then like it happens like that as well with the sun. Like when Aries is like the start of that cycle, and then as we go on, it starts to accumulate. So whatever you started and initiated during Aries season, it's what starts to accumulate throughout the year. This is where the concept of a New Year's resolution comes from. But actually, New Year's is not even based around the real New Year's, which was in astrology, was Aries time, which is springtime, which is March and April. New Year's is based around Christmas time because the Freemasons, they want to give credence to Christ, the risen, the solar plexus energy, their expression, their Leo kind of energy, or the sun in general, and they worship. They kind of worship sun. They do sun worship. So as a way for them, they like to worship the day that the sun did a full cycle around the world. That's why they have Christmas and New Year's, and that's why in the Bible it talks about like the sun, like the son of God or whatever the heck is. Actually, you know what? I kind of forgot why I was making that allegory or that connection there. But I was thinking of like how the Bible talks about the sun rose after the third day or something. But I don't think that's even relevant. Really, the sun rose after the third day is a representation or allegory to how when we come into another season, there's 3 days where we're still in that cusp energy. We're still in that energy of being in the last season. And once you go 3 days into another season, let's say Gemini season, you're 3 days into Gemini season, you have fully made that transition into the next house. You've fully died, and then you've rose again into the next space, into the next sign that we're going through in terms of our as above, so below transits, or as within, so without, which is really the true concept. As above, so below is just the after effect, just the second coming. That's like the Christ kind of energy again. But regardless, when it comes to the astrology as above, so as within, so without going on now, this is a great time for you to get real introspective, analyze what you may need to transform, what passions actually benefit you, and what you may need to kind of readjust, recorrelate, and reorganize in order for you to feel better. And also being mindful, like if you're in the lower octave, this will be a time where you're kind of really battling against the side of yourself that you really do not want to experience. So the more you like kind of fight against that and balance yourself, bring yourself towards that center point and battle against those old thoughts, you'll be able to like rise to a more smoother circumstance. But if you're on the lower octave, this is also due to the fact that you've put your thoughts and your feelings into an area where it's not benefiting you. So you'll become aware of something that's actually kind of against your current, against your mind, against your flow. So whatever thoughts and feelings you start to accumulate now is really just you analyzing and looking at your internal mental space, like, oh, what have I created? And so you're still looking at it from the lens of what do I need to transform, but you're under layers where you're looking above at whatever is over you, and you're feeling like it's a burden and feeling like you have to kind of push through this transit right now because you're overthinking about how you're acting, how you're like portraying yourself, how you're not acting, what you're not acting on, and so on and so forth. Whatever the case may be, you're overthinking and putting your thoughts and feelings into an area that's really just like kind of putting you into damnation energies, right? But it's all an uphill battle. So you need to realize that you're not alone and that we're all, fighting towards a certain space or fighting against a certain space that we've cultivated for ourselves. And the more you start to fight that um, fight that old thought with that new thought again, like I say in my other videos too, the more you start to see the um, fruits of your labor, right? And it may start only in small instances at certain points, but once you start to manifest and grow that, it'll start to become larger instances to the point where it'll actually become almost like a fruit that you can actually grab and hold and touch and taste. But really, it won't be a fruit. It'll just be something that you created mentally, a concept that you built mentally because you knew what you were doing, and now you were able to create and be the creator and jump back into the driver's seat as a spirit, rather than allowing your body, allowing your vessel, allowing your desires, allowing your thoughts and feelings to control you, which is what a lot of people in this world start to fail and do, they just start to allow their body, allow them thoughts and feelings to control their spirit, when really you're supposed to be the spirit that's controlling your thoughts and feelings, which is controlling your body. So don't do things backwards. You end up like an inverted star, and then you'll feel like you'll feel like the world is happening to you rather than through you, which is actually the truth. It's actually happening through you, and you are the creator, not the creation. So the more you start to remember that, and the more you start to jump into that mindset and be aware of the different spaces and the different instances in which you are the creator through the way you're thinking and feeling, then you'll be able to actually know what to cut off and what to actually align with when it comes to your like path and your purpose, and things will become a lot smoother. But because everyone's so lost into the external, they're just like, oh my gosh, like I need to change this, and then they try and go look for something external. But like everything you need is right within you. Like all you need is your thoughts and your feelings. How can you change your thoughts and your feelings? And then that's how you can change your reality. And so when it comes like British bitch coming out, British freaking hoe. So I do have some British line down there, down the path. And when it comes to these kind of alignments, these kind of energies, this is a perfect time for you to transform your inner space. You know, even though you may be washed under the current and feeling overwhelmed by the as within, so without energies that you're experiencing right now, it's actually the perfect time for you to wash these under the current. So you're no longer the one that's washed under the current. You're the one that's washing the waters that's under your current. And now you're able to ride that current like a surfer. Surf's up, Ash, bitch. And now you're able to ride that current like a badass bitch. And you know you're not a badass because you did things the right way. You did things in a good way, in a godly way, in a way that was in alignment with the natural state of reality, the natural state of your mind, the natural state of the atmosphere that you're residing in right now. So everything trickles down. And the more you start to realize the instances in which everything comes from your mentality, everything comes from your thoughts and your feelings, and it bends into your reality, whether it's you thinking and feeling that yourself, or whether it's you just holding on to a thought and a feeling and really not knowing that you're holding on to that because you're unconscious about it, or whether it's just you being around other people with certain thoughts and feelings and interacting with them on a large percentage scale of your day, which is allowing you to pick up on more of their energy and more of their space. Like pay attention like to how much time you're spending with certain people. What are their experiences? Like what kind of experiences and mental spaces they're in? And then pay attention to your own mental space. I bet you every single time, if you start experiencing thoughts and feelings out of nowhere that you don't know where they came from, and you've been hanging around with someone on a large percentage scale, look at what kind of thoughts and feelings they are in. I bet you 9 times out of 10, whatever experiences and thoughts and feelings they were in is the kind of thoughts and feelings that you started experiencing after you started spending lots and lots of percentage scale of your day with them. So that's why people say it's important to be mindful of who you hang around with. It's not really because, oh, you're going to start to um, what's it called? You're going to start to follow them it consciously. Like a lot of people think, because even me, I was guilty of this when I was in school. I would think that if people say, like, be careful who you hang around with, in my mind, I was like, I'm not weak. So why would I care about who I hung around with? Because I'm strong enough to resist whatever, like, kind of mentalities that they might, like, influence me with. But regardless of if you're strong enough, sometimes it's just not necessarily necessary to even fight that battle in the first place. Yeah, you might be strong enough to fight those thoughts, but why should you when you can avoid it altogether? So that's really when it comes to being spiritually wise and seeing like 5 steps ahead, 10 steps ahead, 20 steps ahead of your own journey. And you're able to see, okay, I know if I spend multitudes of time with this specific individual, it's going to lead to me experiencing more of this kind of thoughts. Like if I'm hanging around with this person and they constantly in their desires, they're constantly like in a state of need, constantly in a state of having to go externally and take from things rather than being able to fulfill their own space, being able to fill their own mentality, being able to fulfill their own thoughts and feelings with whatever they want to fulfill it with, then I'm going to start to experience whatever thoughts and feelings they experience. And whether or not I'm a strong enough spirit to fight against that, that's a different story. Like if you can't fight that as a spirit, you really should just like go like somewhere else and maybe just like do some shadow work or some shit like that. I don't know. Whatever you feel like is necessary for you and your journey. But if you're a strong enough spirit to be able to fight off those thoughts, my question now as well, now that you have the strength, is why would you use your strength for something that you could avoid altogether just by being smart? It's about working smarter, not harder, all right? So I'm not about to be working harder just because I feel obligated to hang around with a certain individual because we've shared experiences together, or I feel obligated to do X, Y, and Z for a specific individual because we have this many experiences. At the end of the day, they should respect and they should have the dignity, or I don't know if dignity is the right word for that, but they should respect that you have your own individual life, your own individual goals and responsibilities. And we all know this as spirits. Everyone knows this. Like nobody is that dumb. But when people allow people in their life to let them think that they're dumb, and that's when you start to get manipulated and used. And then you're turning around and thinking that you're the victim, when in actuality, you're the one who allowed that to be manipulated and used in the first place. So if you didn't use your smarts, use your wisdom as a spirit, take your time and use it wisely, because again, like I was saying, your attention is your spiritual currency. So the more time you spend on paying attention to a specific thing, you're paying for that experience. So it doesn't matter if you can fight it off or not, you're still going to experience that. And if you don't want to experience a constant wave, a constant flux of energy pushing your wave and resisting against your wave and making you feel like, oh, everything's so hard, everything's so difficult, then you can just go around that wave. Stop paying attention to that specific wave. Stop paying attention to those specific groups of people. Stop paying attention to those specific groups of mentality. Look at everything at everything as its own person, whether it's a mentality, whether it's a situation, whether it's a thing. Look at them as their own characters, their own personas, their own people. And so the more you start to spend time with those individual personas, those individual people, the more you start to experience that. It's like birds of a feather flock together. It's all the same shit. Like, I don't get why people feel so disconnected from their reality to the point where they feel like that things are not like making sense. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to shame nobody. And like, this is coming from a self-reflecting space, because I know this from a personal space that I'm stepping out of that space now. And I'm here to show anyone else who's in this process of stepping out of that space that this is where you can end up in your own individual way. Not saying you have to sit up here and do videos or whatever the fuck I'm doing, whether I'm talking about astrology or not, whether you're talking about astrology or not, it doesn't matter, but you'll be able to get to this form of this space on your own and develop your own mind, your own mentality in this space. This is not just because, oh, I have a certain gift of intelligence, which, yeah, that is an aspect to it. Obviously, there's a certain gift going on here in order for me to be able to, the gift of the gab, whatever the fuck you want to call it, the gift of intelligence, but this intelligence, it's not something that one person can have and another person can't have. Like, it's not so cut and dry like that. It's something that you can obtain mentally, spiritually. But if you just stay locked up into the same old cycles and perpetuating the same old mind states that you're in, then you won't be able to break out of that, and you won't be able to see how much more life has to offer in terms of your ability to learn. But anyways, back to the topic of what I was saying, I was in that mental state too, where I thought everything was so hard or difficult to figure out, or that life was some kind of great mystery. Life is no mystery. Life is happening right in front of you. How can you say that something that's happening right in front of your eyes is a mystery? That makes no sense. Whatever, that goes against the initial definition of what a mystery is. A mystery is something that you don't know and you're unable to see or observe what is going on. A mystery is something that's happening behind the scenes that you're not able to get the full knowledge or indication of what's going on. Life is something that's happening in front of your eyes on a day-to-day basis. Life is what you are experiencing. So don't let anyone tell you that life is a mystery, that things in life are mysterious and that we won't figure it out. That is bullshit, and that's actually shadow government programming for them to get you into a mindset of thinking that you don't know and that they somehow have caught on to this mystery that you don't know. No, life is right in front of you. So when you look at things as an instance of what's going on right in front of you and what is actually happening right in front of you, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, because these two things are inexplicably linked in the first place. If you're looking at it mentally first, then you'll be able to figure out what's going on externally, physically. But if you're looking at everything from an external perspective and looking at life and trying to figure out what's going on with life externally, then you're starting at the wrong starting point. Because in order for people to even have an instance to figure out to make something or craft something in life, like a building or a footpath or a tent or anything, like a fireplace, they had to initially have felt something and thought something internally, but which led them to go and do whatever they're doing. So when you're coming to think, coming to think, when you start to think that things that I'm saying are pseudo, like take it back to that starting point. Everything in life starts from you initially having a thought and a feeling to even go and do whatever you wanted to do. You didn't like just get up and like not think that you wanted to get up and move your legs. No, you thought, oh, I want to get up. I want to move my legs right now. So I'm going to get up and go move my legs. So that's the same kind of mechanism that's happening when you get up and move your legs, is the same kind of mechanism that's happening when things are created, when things are born and created in this world. It's starting from a mentality, it's starting from a thought and a feeling, and it's condensing and starting to manifest in a physical reality. But just because now you're in a reality where things are happening slow, in more slow motion, so you're able to see the physical manifestation of it in a more condensed and solidified way. Whereas if you were to look at it from a more spiritual perspective, you would see that, like, spiritually things are happening like quickly, but they're just not condensing very quickly, right? Because they're lighter on a scale, then they're not heavy and they're not vibrating fast enough, like how people say with that like whole vibration shit. They're not vibrating fast enough in order for you to actually pick up on what it is. Like, but the things that are lighter, they are still vibrating. They're just vibrating at a lot of a is it faster or slower? I think it's, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like they're vibrating at a lot slower rate. So you're not able to pick up on these things because it kind of just starts to become like more of like a gust of wind or a certain wave of feeling that you just get, a wave of emotion that you just get when you walk into a certain space, because it's not fully condensed, it's not vibrating fast enough, it's not got enough momentum, it hasn't got enough charge for it to be rooted into this reality, for it to be like rooted into physicality, which and then for it to start to manifest as like a solidified form where you're able to see it deteriorate in slow time, which is what I was saying before, how things in this reality are more slower moving, which is really just to say that they start to deteriorate slower. And then I kind of choked myself up there where I was thinking about the spiritual aspect of how spiritually it's not vibrating as fast. So that kind of sounded like a contradiction, right? But everything is backwards when it comes to the spiritual. So it may be vibrating slow in the spiritual and fast in the physical, but in the physical, it's deteriorating. It's deteriorating slow, and in the spiritual, it deteriorates fast. So that's how things are backwards in the spiritual, and it goes way deeper than that. Like there's a whole bunch of shit which is more backwards in the spiritual. But when it comes to like looking at that concept in general of things vibrating and those things condensing into reality, it's just a way to look at what's actually happening. So when you look at it from that aspect, if you're seeing what is happening on a micro scale internally, if you're analyzing your thoughts and your feelings, then you're able to actually catch things at its smallest instance before it even starts to condense and starts to become the material around you and the reality around you, right? Which is just merely illusion created by the mentalities, the thoughts and feelings that you are already in order for you to start experiencing and going through this shit. Like, it's so wild. But, bruh, I feel like sometimes I just go on those Gemini tangents, those Gemini tangents, and like I'll be getting to the point where I'm like, wow, does anybody even want to listen to this shit? But then I'm like, also, no, I can't sit there and think that nobody would want to listen to this shit just because I haven't seen anything like this. That's really the starting point of where it's coming from, is because I haven't seen anything like it, which is just me getting lost into a form, a light, thinking that I need to be in some kind of form, information in order for my thing to be formatted properly. But really, what creates the form um, is something that has no form. So it's coming from that starting point. I'm doing it more in a natural perspective in general. But yeah, once you're looking at everything in reality as that starting point, you're able to look at, oh, well, actually, everything's condensing from the mental to the physical. So if I just pay attention more, put more time, thoughts, and feelings into my mental space, correlating my mental space properly, and manifesting a better mental space for myself, then that's how I can change my life. That's how I can change my reality. Not by going out and external and constantly putting on like something to satisfy myself in the moment, to satisfy the body, to make the body feel good, to make the body feel satisfied, which there's nothing wrong with any of these things. There's nothing wrong with satisfying your body. There's nothing wrong with satisfying anything. But remember where they come from. It comes from the first you feeling satisfied. It's like this post I saw, this guy shared it on his Instagram. I should have really shared it on my thing. I don't know why I didn't. When this post I saw, actually, I think I do know why I didn't. I was freaking overthinking that shit like a fucking Gemini head ass. But yeah, anyways, when it comes to when it comes to this video I watched, he was saying that your ego says that if you have everything that you want, you will find happiness. But spirit says if you find happiness, then you'll have everything that you want. And then I said, listen to that again. You guys can skip back and listen to that again. I'm not going to repeat that shit, but you get the concept. If you did, if you get it, if you know, if you know, if you know, you know kind of concept. But yeah, it's really the truest way of looking at it. You need to push out and emanate whatever you want to see in your reality. You need to push it out as a fume in order for you to actually experience that. That's the concept of magic in its truest space. When people try and think of magic, they think, oh, you're like shooting a fireball out of your hand, or you're shooting a ball of air, or creating, like manifesting or joining two materials and creating a new material. Those are like kind of like after effects, after facts of what the initial space is, which is you joining two thoughts and feelings, right? Correlating two thoughts and feelings in order to create something new. All right. And that is what your magic is. That is how you use your magic. And every day you have the choice to change your life through utilizing your magic. All it takes is for you to create a thought and a feeling, an idea and a feeling to go with it, and to really feel that idea, really like jump into that feeling. And then once you emanate that, you're able to emanate that into the atmosphere, and you stop giving a fuck about it. Stop thinking about it, stop caring about it, and the universe will give you that shit, whether it comes soon or later. It doesn't matter, but it's going to come to you. I'm telling you. You just need to have the spiritual eye to actually see, the keen eye to actually be able to see when it's condensing into your reality. And that takes practice. It takes experience, but it also just takes awareness in general. It doesn't really like practice and experience is more of an after. The awareness is what you need. The substance of being aware of that specific transit or that specific chakra that is transiting through your space at that specific point in time. And in order for you to be aware of that, takes you to analyze and go within, analyze that internal space, Virgo energy, right? Knowing what you need to transform, what you need to transmute and change into something new for you to be able to experience something new in your life. And that's just simple as that. Like it's really like it's not so hard, but what's hard is when you've been under an under layers of experiencing a reality where that is not the case, like that is not true. And so now you're trying to kind of find your way back to remember how you even got here in the first place. Because there's no way that you don't know this if you're here in the first place, right? You had to have had a thought and had a feeling in order for you to be able to manifest yourself into the physical reality in the first place. So you know what you're doing. You just forgot because you're so focused on the external, you're so focused on what's going on in the world that you forgot to look internal and realize what's happening on a day-to-day basis. Because now you're like experiencing like after effects, like secondhand effects, hand me down type shit of whatever is actually happening, which is that your thoughts are condensing into your physical reality, bitch. Like, period. But anyways, if you don't want to accept that, that's up to you. But for the people that think like me and know that this is true, this is for you guys. For you guys to get onto game, for you guys to be able to learn more, because I want more people to be able to experience and know this knowledge, and to be able to experience the space that I'm able to jump into and experience for myself and see the world through. Because being in that other space that I was in before, that was just ugly type shit. Like that was really like just like the worst experience that I could possibly go through, and I wouldn't want anyone to go through that. But and in saying that as well, that's really just like victim mentality, I think, as well, partly. But it's just saying, like, I just wanted to emphasize, I guess, how bad that space is for humanity as a whole, for humans as a whole, for spirits as a whole, to be in that space, because that space is leading you into more damnation and more holistic mind state, as opposed to the natural space that I'm more trying to show you guys to jump into or to utilize. Once you guys are able to jump into that space and analyze and see what it is, then you're able to make your own mind, make your own cup, make your own container in that space. And then you're able to kind of see the world through your own personal lens, your own subjective, objective reality, and be able to, like, whether it's be a teacher or whether it's just change the world in your corner of the world, wherever you may be, doesn't matter. But in some way, shape, or form, you're going to be teaching and you're going to be learning. So that's the main like goals that really everyone should be striving for. And if you're not looking to teach or to learn in some way, shape, or form, then you've kind of missed the point in life, I would say, because life is all about lessons. Life is all about learning and growing and teaching. So if you don't know and you don't see that, then you're in some way, shape, or form, you're disconnected from life. You're disconnected from reality. And I'm not saying that in a way where I'm trying to shun or shame anybody. That's just what it is. Like, I'm just here to tell you what it is and what I see from my own individual perspective. And whether or not you agree, that's up to you. I'm not here to talk about agreeances or disagreeances. I know what my life is. I know what goes on in my life. And nobody can really tell me otherwise. I've gotten to that point. Like, I really don't, yeah. I don't even need to say that I don't need it, but just as an example, like, so other people can understand where I'm coming from. Like, I don't need to go out and see someone tell me, oh, this is this, because I can see it in front of my eyes. Like, I can see what's happening. So if anyone was to come tell me otherwise, all I can think is, you're stupid. Like, you just don't know. Like, that's really as far as I can get it to in my mind, and not in a derogatory way, because at the end of the day, we're all on our own journey, and I respect everyone's space and respect everyone's place in their journey too. And I love that we can all have our own individual place and perspective to be able to share, to be able to help others, to be able to grow. And, that's why I'm even in the space that I'm in right now, for me to be able to have my own position and space, to be able to teach others who are in their own position and space. And it's each one teach one. And then we all grow, we all expand, we all start to take ourselves to the next existence, to the next mind, to the next body that we're trying to create for ourselves, which is hopefully a more lighter one, not like these heavy ass ones that we keep experiencing, and we feel down and depressed and heavy, and we feel like everything's happening slow, and like we want things to happen now, and we want to achieve things, and we need to achieve things, and we want things now. That's why everyone's in this mental space, because of the mental space that we've created for ourselves mentally, and then it starts to bend in. So everyone was in a state of desire, in a state of wanting to constantly uphold and maintain whatever they were in, whether it's a concept, whether it's a thought, a feeling, whether it's a mind state, whatever it is. But everyone was trying to maintain and hold and contain and condense what they were in. And then that led to us condensing and holding these bodies, which is also like condensed into a mind state or a mentality of people. This is why we even remember things to a large degree. Like that, the longer you're able to hold on to memory, the more you're seen as more of a like closer to intelligence or humanity in some way, shape, or form. So this is like what it is to be a human. You're holding on to a form of memory, holding on to a form of mentality, which is like causing you to constantly condense and manifest these physical heavy bodies, which is nothing wrong with like that. But we can create a lighter form, we can create a lighter mentality to bring us into a lighter form of what we're already experiencing. So we don't have to experience so many holistic mind states. So we don't have to experience so much slowness, so much trial and tribulation in our life. We can just experience things at a lot faster rate and jump into mental states at will and be able to experience a more free, like sovereign space. Like, and sovereign is not even the right term for it because sovereign is more related to physical, dense kind of concept. But still, it's the best way I can describe it for you guys when I'm going back to that space and looking at what kind of energies and characteristics that space has on its own. And if you're able to be able to understand or understand what I'm actually saying, then you're in some degree, you're able to jump into that space as well. But whether or not you're able to maintain and hold on to that space a little bit more is a different story. And even then, like I said before, we were condensing and maintaining things in order for us to even come down into this reality. But if you're condensing and you're maintaining something that's a lot more lighter, a lot more free, a lot more open to transformation, then that's still like it's going to condense and manifest into a body like that. So it's not going to be so heavy like we are now. It's not going to be so condensed, slow, depressed, down, hard, like all those kind of words come from us being in a physical vessel, in a physical realm. When it comes to the spiritual realm and being in that lighter realm, being in a lighter atmosphere, those kind of concepts don't really apply so much because you're in a lighter space. And lighter, when I say lighter, I mean lighter in weight. I don't mean light as in light, because light is a physical thing. Light is just a more physical form of the lighter bodies that we created, lighter in weight, that starts to condense. So whatever was lighter in weight in the mental realm, it started to condense and started to form into light. So light is still a condensed form of what is lighter in weight. If you catch my drift of what I'm saying. But yeah, when you're able to like make your own cup and create your own mentality, this is how Dolo teaches, this is how Dolo explains it. And this is why I always say as well, everything is based off of native hobbyism. Because when I'm looking at it, when you guys are looking at it from this lens, you can't really debunk whether or not it's true or false. When you're looking at it from European side, you can debunk whether it's true or false because it's not the true concept of it. It's not they're not the originators of their concept. They're just piggybacking off of other people's knowledge and like creating statistics and lessons and like degrees and all kind of shit angles off of what is rounded out already. Like the earth is already round. They're just trying to Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-size everything in the world. So they Anglo-size everything in the world, size it up. I don't even get sized up. I'm oversized. I'm over any size, any concept of size. So if you're trying to size me up or down, it doesn't really matter because I'm over that. Like I don't have a size. I'm beyond that concept. But they're trying to size up the reality, angleless size, like angle out every single side of reality in order for them to be able to like make sense and observe what's going on in reality. But for people like this, like that are in my space, and people that are more in tune with the indigenous state of mind, knowing that we should all tap into that natural state of being, and to that more spiritual state of being where things are more free, things are more lighter, things more like happening and playing out like kind of more similar to the Fool card, which is really just native hobbyism again. The Fool card is just based off of the native mindset altogether. Tarot cards in general is based off of the Native American um, concept altogether. This is why Native Americans even have like their whole concept of like dressing up as animals, and they call it animism, where they're able to enact the characteristic of a specific animal and then play out those characteristics physically or mentally as well, and then play them out physically, and then that becomes the anchor into the reality for them to be able to maintain whatever mental characteristic they're trying to utilize. But they're transforming it from an animalistic way into a way that can be utilized in a human way, in a human realm. So the animal may utilize it in one way, a human may utilize it in another way. So that's the human's way of encapsulating and holding on to that energy that the animal has as a characteristic, and then being able to act out that characteristic in reality. This is why they have, like, if you think about Native Americans, a lot of people think about like them dressing up with their specific headdresses, which represents like a certain animal, and they may have like a cape or a robe that has like the feathers of a certain animal, because these are animals that they've enacted the characteristics of mentally, and so they're able to wear these animals as a symbol of their connection to that animal, as a symbol of their connection to the land, as a symbol of their connection to that atmosphere and the mental space that they're in. So this is why I'm talking about these things are actually native hobbyism, because everything I'm even explaining in the first place is bore from the Native Americans' mind, the Native Americans' concept, the Native American spiritual concept. So that's why we pay respects and attribute who the traditional originators of these concepts are, because we wouldn't be able to talk about and experience these concepts if it wasn't for the Native American mentality, the Native American mind, which condensed into reality for us to be able to call these things astrology and like whatever else like you may want to call it, or spirituality or religion, or dream interpretation or paganism, anything. All of these concepts just comes from the idea of the Europeans being able to analyze and look at and observe what the Native Americans naturally do from their mentality. So if you naturally have this, if you're naturally able to observe certain characteristics, then this is showing how much of a percentage scale of that mentality that you're able to have within you. And that's a representation of where your spiritual space may reside in, whether it's closer to the European concept or whether it's closer to the Native American concept. And whether or not you like that or not is a different story. But whether or not you can know where you're at, that's really the importance of it. So when you look at knowing where you're at, like for me, I have two different backgrounds. I have the Maori background and I have the European background. So if you don't know anything about Maori, Maori is a term to describe the tribes, the indigenous tribes of New Zealand. And in New Zealand, before the Europeans came, we were not called Maori people. We were called by our tribe, Ngati or Ngati Awa, the people of the water or the people of the river, which is what Ngati Awa tribe represent, the people of the water or the river. And then like Ngati, like we have Ngati, I was trying to think of one that I knew the actual name or the meaning of, but I don't really know a lot of the other meanings of the other tribes as well. They had their own dialects too. But my point in saying this was I have both sides. So I have that native, not Native American, not to be confused with Native American, because that's a different geographical location and a different space mentally. But I'm able to utilize and observe what I learned from Dolo, and able to analyze the Native American concept, and I'm able to correlate and see where the native indigenous people of New Zealand are similar and also where they're different. So there's similarities in that people in the native indigenous people of New Zealand had the connection to nature, had the connection to the atmosphere knowledge. So they had that ability to know that things condense from the mental to the physical. So that's where the connection between the Native Americans and the indigenous people of New Zealand lie. But then there's also the side of myself that's connected to the European because I'm mixture, as you can tell. So the mixture within me, I'm able to take both sides. What you're hearing me right now is me talking about the indigenous native mind more correlated to the Native American because I'm always going to carry it back to that. But we don't need to constantly mention that because I don't want to sound like a broken record. That Native Indigenous concept being in tune with the atmosphere knowledge, knowing that we are the atmosphere, we create the atmosphere as spirits through our thoughts and our feelings. This is why when you walk into a room with someone, you can sense the atmosphere, the vibe change based on the aura of that individual person who just walked in, or whether you walked in. You can pick up an atmosphere or a vibe based on whatever space you just picked up on. So Native Indigenous people already know this as a natural knowledge because Native Indigenous people are more in tune with the land, with taking care of the land, knowing that the land and the person are one and the same. So in taking care of the land, you're taking care of yourself. You're taking care of the womb that you inhabit, and therefore the womb will be able to nourish you and take care of you. So the Native Indigenous people knew this. This is why we didn't feel the need to go out and travel to different countries and take over and colonize different countries that already had resources, that already had people, that already had animals, right? So we were just like the Native Indigenous people, we were just in our own space, living life day to day, cultivating a better mental space because we knew that that was what to place importance on. And in doing whatever we were doing, it was always from the starting basis of trying to cultivate a better mental space. And depending on how well or not well you were able to do this will depend on will correlate to your own experiences of what you experience in your reality, right? So this is why we were able to survive off the land where a European culture, the European cultures had to go to a new land to colonize because they didn't have enough to survive off of, and they were resorting to subsidy, whatever the word is, subsidiary tactics of creating synthetic foods. This is why Europeans brought over processed foods and all kinds of stuff like that, because it's a practice that they've been doing for a long time, which started from the concept of creating bread and using yeast, which is a dead fungus. So they were trying to use something that was dead and make it into something that is more nourished and alive for you to be able to nourish yourself. But then it starts to turn faulty because they start to create too many of these things where it could have just been left out one, or it could have been just left out a few. And if they had have just correlated and corrected their mental space, they would have started to experience a better physical space and a physical environment. But instead, they felt the need to go out and colonize different aspects of the world because they didn't know this original starting point of what I'm telling you right now. They weren't in the Native Indigenous mind. They weren't in the Native concept to know that by taking care of your internal space, by going within, taking care of your within, then you'll be able to experience something that's more taken care of in the without. And that can apply to many different scales. But when you're able to see this, like I was just explaining, then you're able to see why the Europeans are constantly feeling the need to invade and to go over to certain countries because they're in that lack mindset. They have to go and look for subsidiary stuff to nourish them because they're lacking in resources. They're lacking in land to plant their resources. This is why their European countries are filled with buildings, right? There's not much room for like many plots of land. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure they have plenty of farms, but if they really had enough, they wouldn't feel the need to go over to other countries and take over shit. So it all goes back to that starting point. Don't ever think that it's any more different than them trying to take over a land, exercise their racism, and control their resources because they don't have resources. They don't have that. So we've got the abundance of resources for us to even be taken over and utilized and tried to be controlled. Why would they try to come to a country that doesn't have some kind of benefit of resources to them? With America, America was filled with gold. The natives had gold. This is the resource that they were able to manifest and correlate from their mentality down into their physical. They have gold mentally, so they were able to manifest gold physically, right? And then um, in New Zealand, we have greenstone, which is pounamu. Pounamu is, in its own way, it has its own essence, has its own power behind it, has its own essence that they wanted to capitalize on and utilize for their own, gain or fall or whatever it may benefit or fall for them. But this is the starting point. The mentality that we're in is what creates the seeds, the trees, the grass, the atmosphere all around us in order for us to even jump into these bodies, these physical bodies, and experience the landmass that we're on. And this is why astrology is based on Native American hobbyism, and why astrology is important to know, and why it's also important for me to come on here and break down the astrological alignments as within, so without, because we're looking at the internal space, the internal mentality that you're in, which is helping you to condense and create your reality. And I wanted to do a disclaimer as well. I really should have done this at the start of the video, but because we're in Scorpio season as well right now, the overarching tone, the actions that you're going to want to feel to go towards is to sting people in a certain way. Because the Scorpio energy is in the atmosphere, right? So there's going to be some urges, some need to like attack or to go on the offense, to sting people or utilize your emotion to go against someone, or to just go with that stinging scorpion kind of energy in general, like get back at someone or whatever it may be. But there's going to be some kind of strong emotional urge for you to passionately go for something when it comes to like stinging someone, when it comes to expressing your emotion. But being mindful of when you're in a Mars planet, correlating your passion to the right area. So instead of correlating that passion like, oh, this person's really frustrating me and I need to show them what's up, I need to have a go at them, or I need to defend my place, or I need to, whatever it may be, it's coming from that original starting point where you need to actually resist this energy. You need to resist the Scorpio kind of demon that's trying to get you to fight against things and to create a more turbulent atmosphere for yourself. And really, you should be directing that stinging energy at something within yourself. What do you need to sting within yourself? What do you need to attack within yourself? What do you need to get revenge on within your internal space? And when you start to look at your internal space and know what you need to get revenge on internally, so whether it's like, let's say, like you really feel like you need to tell someone off or tell someone what to do. Now, looking at internally, you need to look at what kind of starting point, what mentality do you need to be in for you to even feel like you need to tell someone what to do. First of all, at the end of the day, everyone's going to think how they want to think. You can't change someone's mind. They can only change it for themselves or agree or disagree with whatever you're trying to bring towards them. So first of all, you're in a mindset where you feel like you can control things externally. That's your first thing that you need to attack. That's your first thing that you need to get revenge on. So once you get revenge on that part of yourself, then you'll be able to release that demon. You'll be able to either release that demon so it can be free and go off and fly off and evolve into a more angelic or a lighter form, or you encage it and you entrap it into a mind state with a spat. You entrap that demon into a mind state. Now you're able to keep it in its own like little form of a prison, and in that prism, it's able to look at all the different reflections of light that it's trapped in. And now the reflections of light is really just a reflection of its own atmosphere, of its own mentality. So that thought and that feeling is able to like reflect off itself and learn off itself now. This is like, I'm not saying this is exactly what's happening, like your thought and your feeling has a mind of its own, but this is just a way to describe what you're doing in the internal realm, an allegory. So that thought and that feeling now has to look at the many different reflections of prisms that it's in. And now it's able to see, oh, what enabled that thought and feeling to even be locked up in the first place, or what enabled that thought and feeling to even become into creation. And now you're able to like kind of see that thought and feeling from a more truer space because you've encaged it, you've entrapped it, and you've not taken it on and encompassed and become that character. You have not become that demon, worn that face, and you've not shown the world like that hateful energy that you were in. You realize first that it was an internal thing and that you need to destroy that demon. You need to fucking cage that demon up, right? And then all of a sudden, now your reality starts to play out a lot smoother because now you know, oh, actually, all I needed to do was get rid of whatever that energy was that was trying to make me give an urge, get an urge to go do something, get an urge to go attack someone, get an urge to go judge someone. And it's not to say that urges are completely bad. Like we're in a reality where urges are like constantly a thing. So you need to know what you're in order for you to be able to realize what you should and shouldn't do. So if you think that like it's like we should completely stop doing certain things just because like that's what caused us to be in this reality in the first place, you're getting lost a little bit because you need to realize that in order for this reality to work, it needs to have an ingredient of whatever's made out of. So you still need to use these things. You need to use love. You need to use revenge. You need to use hate, but you need to use it internally. You need to hate yourself, not yourself. Sorry, that's fucking bad wording. Never, don't hate yourself. Always love yourself. You need to hate a certain aspect of yourself. You need to hate that thought. You need to hate that feeling that constantly makes you go down that self-sabotaging path. You need to hate that thought that constantly makes you feel like you need to fight against someone or you need to prove yourself to someone. You need to hate it. So now, once you hate it, now you know what you need to go to war with. You need to attack in order for you to feel more smoother outcomes, more smoother reality for yourself. And then boom, you're on your way, bish. You're on your way to creating a better atmosphere internally for yourself, and which is going to start to bend in and start to create your external atmosphere. And then that's all going to trickle down as well and start to become your body, and you'll start to feel better. You'll start to feel lighter. You'll start to feel like things are easier because it all started from your mental state. It all started from you thinking that things are going to be easier, that things are going to happen and work out for you in the right way because you know that it was happening through you, not for you or to you. So even then, when it happens to a situation where you're looking at the situation and you're like, oh, this kind of looks like it's happening to me, then you'll realize, oh, no, actually, everything was happening through me all along. So even when I think it's happening to me, I know that that came from the original starting point of it happening through me first. So what can I find? What aspect of myself is it happening through? And now I can like delegate and know, oh, there's an aspect of myself that I need to lock up. Is this the aspect of myself that I need to transform? Or is this the aspect of myself that I need to completely throw away because it has no benefit? It has no merit in my own internal space, in my own internal world. And this is when once you're able to jump into like a little bit more of this mindset, then you're able to like really manifest a lot of a smoother circumstance for yourself. So life is really hard because you make it hard, to put it in simple terms. And the more you make it easy mentally, not physically, mentally, the more you make it easy mentally, the more you experience it easier physically. And that goes for many different things, but it all starts from the mental. Use your magic, bitch. Use your magic. So yeah, you need to fight against that Scorpio little demon ass bitch that's trying to make you feel like that you need to fight someone, that you need to judge someone, that you need to attack someone, you need to get revenge. That's all that Scorpio energy. Hop out of that shit because once you start to enact on that energy, then that's when the alignments are starting to play you, and you're not able to play out the alignments in your own individual way. And that's putting you back into the, like what I was saying at the start of the video, you're putting yourself back into the vehicle seat. How can you be in the vehicle seat? You're supposed to be the one driving the vehicle, and you're supposed to be in the seat of the vehicle. So how can you be in the vehicle. You are, and now you just became the vehicle, bitch. So you just became the vehicle, and now the alignments as above or as within are starting to control you. That's not how it works. Once you like realize that, you need to realize, oh, okay, I don't need to act out these energies exactly as they are. I need to maneuver and manipulate these energies to work for me and my space. So if my space, I wanna MySpace, bro. Shout out to MySpace, whoever the fuck the creator was that for that. If MySpace is what's it called? If MySpace is the space that I want to cultivate, and I want more positive, more smoother kind of energies, right? Then I'm not gonna want to jump into that energy of getting revenge or judgment. If you want to play out more turbulent energies, then by all means, do what you want to do. But in my space, I want to cultivate more smoother energies. So I'm gonna want to not go with that energy as within, so without, and I'm gonna want to utilize it for a different way. So that goes for the Virgo moon, overthinking kind of energy or overanalyzing kind of energy, and the Scorpio, which is that transformational energy. So you're feeling like you can either want to transform your internal space, right? Or you can either be that person that wants to transform someone else's space. And that's where it gets a little bit on the toxic side, but it also depends on how you do something. So you can still transform someone's space, but what starting point are you coming from? You know, what emotions and thoughts and feelings is bending in for you to start to enact those actions, and that'll determine the outcome. So if you're in that state of being where you're like in a constant frustrated state of being, and you want to attack someone, you want to judge someone, you want to sting them, then you're going to manifest a situation, whether it's that person or another person, it doesn't matter. You're going to manifest another situation of someone else wanting to sting you back. So you'll experience that mirror reflection coming back at you. But if you're in that space and you're able to look at things from a non-biased perspective, and you're like, oh, yes, I know that I feel this way, but I also know that I need to fight against this energy. I need to go against this current, right? That's forcing me to go, that wave that's forcing you to go into a certain current, right? And then I'm able to, then now once you're fighting against it, you're able to rise above it, and you're looking at it and you're like, okay, well, how can I utilize this current to be more in my favor now? And that's later down the line. But if you're at a lower octave scale where you're still learning about astrology, you're still learning about how to rise above the current, then you'll be at the starting point of fighting against it. And so it's going to be an uphill battle. But this is why people like me are here, so that, you know, I can help you, and you can help yourself. And then maybe later on down the line, you might be able to help someone else who's in a similar position as you were when you started watching me. So it's always each one teach one, like that. And when we're able to jump back into our space and our position and know where we stand and know how to correlate things a lot simpler, because we just know our experience and we know how to like express what's going on in our experience and our subjective reality, then boom, that's when you're able to be the teacher in the position of more of a teacher, because now you've gone through that experience, you've known your experience to the point where nobody can even tell you otherwise, because you already know your reality. So if someone else was to come and tell you that your reality is one way, you'll look at them like how I was saying before, like, are you stupid? Like, what the fuck? I really don't get what is going on. So yeah, once you're able to see things from that aspect, then you're able to do you a lot better. So better get out there, bitches, and do you a lot better. Okay. I also, but this video kind of turned into a long ass video. I want to go take a little bit of a break, but I loved it too, so that's why I kept going. Um, I want to, I wanted, I really wanted to break down more of the astrology, but my phone is overheating, so I can't look at the rest of the chart. But like a little rundown as well. Also, we have Mars still in Cancer, so be mindful of that energy of getting too complacent, getting too comfortable with not going for your passions. Get into that more energy of being comfortable with being uncomfortable, because sometimes your passions can be uncomfortable, and Cancer doesn't like to be in a position of being uncomfortable, which is where Mars is, which is what Mars is more correlated to, with passion kind of energy. And so when you're Cancer, it's like gonna wanna go towards more of that comfortable energy, that comfort zone energy, which can lead to more complacent energies and you not actually carrying out the things that you're motivated or passionate about doing. And the more you start to like put that in the back burner, then you'll like kind of like won't experience things how you've been experiencing them. Because like if you're on a path, or you have more of a purpose or a creative gift or talent that you're trying to share and trying to help bring into the world, then you already know that this is something that helps you mentally. Okay. So when you start to get complacent with that Mars in Cancer, you start to get complacent with your passions, then your mentality will start to deteriorate. Your mentality will start to experience that fall because you're not upholding the thing that you know that is really benefiting you in the long run, which is your creative gift or talent, whatever that may be. Your talent that you love to share, your passion, your purpose, your motivation, whatever you want to call it. These are all similar, but also slightly different, because you can be passionate about something, but it doesn't have to be your creative gift or talent, right? You can have a creative gift or talent, but you don't have to be passionate about it. Or um, you can have a purpose, but it doesn't have to be a purpose that you're passionate about. Well, actually, arguably, no. If you have a purpose, you'd want to be passionate about it. Otherwise, what are you doing your purpose for? But if you have a purpose, doesn't necessarily have to be something that you're creatively talented or gifted at. So, like, it doesn't. That's how you can look at it and see the differences and the similarities and how they kind of intertwine, but they also have a different space, a different original template of where they're coming from. So yeah, that's a little breakdown of the Mars and Cancer. Being mindful of that energy, because that's a pretty strong energy in the sky right now as well. And then yeah, you're all good. What's it called? Then when it comes to the other alignments in the sky as well, we've got Sagittarius and Venus. So we're going to be feeling loving, appreciating, or that, because Venus is love and appreciate what you love, appreciate, and value. And then Sagittarius is expansion, growth, going through an experience, learning. So we're going to be we're going to be like having more appreciation, more love for the experience, what we're learning, the lessons that we might be going through. Or we may be feeling also on the toxic side, if you're in the lower octave end, you'll be feeling like there's love for wanting to escape, or wanting to escape from a certain scenario, wanting to escape out of a certain mentality. And that's going to lead you down a road of more escapist mindsets, as opposed to if you flip it on its ass, flip it on its head, then you can see, okay, well, actually, maybe I just need to love and appreciate what I'm learning right now. What is the lesson of the experience that I'm going through, rather than looking at it like you need to escape. And that goes back to like what I was saying before with the Scorpio sun, when it comes to transforming your internal space. So with the Scorpio sun, it's putting us in a space where we want to act on transforming something. And if depending on where you're at, you may want to transform someone else's circumstance by saying, "Oh, you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't blah blah blah," or you may want to transform your own circumstance, or a mixture of both. But regardless of where you're at, just know it's not what you're doing; it's how you're doing it. So if you're coming from a space of like a more clear, more positive mindset, and not looking at it from a heavy mindset where you're wanting to escape, and now it's causing you to manifest all kind of heavy thoughts and feelings that's making you feel really down and depressed and all that kind of shit. This is why we even have those terms, down and depressed, because it comes from a heavy thought, a heavy feeling that you're allowing to gain more heaviness, more weight to it. And now it's able to weigh over you. And now you feel like you've got a weight on your shoulders. So this is where these concepts come from. And yeah, if you're able to look at it from that aspect, then you'll be in a lot more of a better like aspect of looking at things for what they are, rather than like just kind of thinking, oh, like down means down because like you're down, or your frown is upside down, or whatever it may be. But like, yeah, when it comes to the Sagittarius and Venus, like being mindful of that energy. And I'm pretty sure we had like a, what's it called? See, I was going to get off. Like, I literally said I was just going to end the video, but then I thought to myself, what if I don't get back on and talk about more about the astrology? I wanted to get a large chunk out of of it out of the way, so that just in case I don't make another astrology video today. But yeah, when it comes to the trine in the sky, like I was saying, I'm pretty sure it was a water trine. So we're going to be having this gift. Actually, you know what? Stuff the trine, because it might have even just passed. But we also just came out of a trine. We had a double trine, fucking triangle shit. Get the fuck out of here, Freemason bullshit. So when it comes to, and no hate, love, respect everyone's culture at the end of the day, but that's just not for me. I'm not about to put no triangles in front of my face like some Freemason ass bitch. But yeah, regardless, sounds like I need to do some self-reflecting myself. But yeah, regardless, when it comes to those trines that were in the sky, it's going to be that like kind of the gift to go towards our passions and our creativity, because that's fire. But then that's also going to be that gift to um, to be more relatable, to get into a more emotional state, or into a more connective kind of state of being, which is more water. So being able to blend these, oh, bro, get the fuck, being able to blend these two. I just did it again. Oh no. Anyways, who gives a fuck? I did it by accident, so it ain't about a thing. So being able to blend these two triangle energies together, you got that one trine, the fire trine, and then the water trine. Then it's talking about being able to blend your emotions, how you feel, your relatability, your wanting to connect with your passions, your motivation, how you express yourself. So when you are able to blend these two, then you're able to create a more balanced circumstance where things aren't too emotional or watery or wet, and everyone just kind of wants to get away from you because you're too emotional. You're bringing too much weight, too much water. Or if it's on the fiery side where it's too hot, it's too dry, and now nobody can relate to you, and you're just like a burning flame, and everyone feels like they need to get away because they need some fresh air, and they feel too stuffy, and they feel too overwhelmed by you. So this is like how you can kind of look at the trine that we just came out of, keeping that in mind. We just came out of this trine. So when we came out of this trine, then we're able to jump into a new energy after that. So whatever based on that trine that we just came out of, it'll kind of set the stage for the after effect of what you're experiencing. So whether you were too hot or you were too wet, or whether you were just right in the middle and you had that sweet spot in the center between those two trines, will determine how you experience things, whether you experience people relating to you too much. Now you've got so many people trying to relate to you, trying to relate to your circumstance. Now you feel like you can't get out of a certain circumstance because you're tied to this, you're tied to that, you're tied to this, and blah, blah, blah. Or like on the other side with the fire trine, you've got so many people trying to, what's it called? So many people trying to get their own space from you because your fire's too hot. They're feeling too overwhelmed. They're feeling too stuffy. They need some oxygen because you're eating up all the oxygen in the air. They can't think now. They might even feel like kind of like this kind of real passionate, spicy kind of energy. So they kind of feel like maybe you might blow up at any certain moment with your fire going and blazing around them. So whatever the template is, this is how you can look at it from an aspect where you're able to see, okay, what space you've just come out of and what space you're coming into, and how you can readjust things as the alignments start to go on. All right. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys have a freaking amazing day, or whatever the fuck it is where you are. An amazing time zone. So when you're able to go out into your world, you're able to look at the freaking astrology a little bit different now, and you're able to pinpoint things a little bit easier now in an aspect that's better for you. All right, honey. So I hope you enjoy. And my star is Unda. All right. Actually, no, let's just do that for another video. I already said that. Laters. Pour you eat.